I grew up in the hood, right? Yes, I did grow up in the hood. I may not sound like I grew up in the hood. I may not give off the vibe that I did, but I did. And when it took me actually a while to realize and accept that I grew up in the hood because when I was younger, right? All I saw was like the neighborhood that I lived in. All I saw was rainbows, man. That is literally all I saw was rainbows through my eyes. I didn't really think at the time was, oh, I live in a bad, neighborhood. I don't live in a, as safe neighborhood. I don't, I didn't realize that stuff. And, just seeing the signs from when, my parents, they wouldn't at a certain like age, I don't know when, but I didn't go outside for a while, for maybe even a year or two. I was always inside. My parents, they didn't let me, go out, and like, it was through stages, you know what I mean? Like the first stage, I was able to sit on my like porch. Second stage was I was able to get off the porch and be in front of the yard a little bit, and play on this little sidewalk that leads up to the porch. Third stage was being able to go to the playground. You know, that is where, most of the neighborhood kids played, right? And, you know, uh, it was a small playground. It wasn't big, right? It wasn't a big playground, but that's where the neighborhood kids, right? They played on it. And also there's two sides to the neighborhood. There's two. There is another side, and stage four was when I went to explore the other side. I didn't know what it was like at the time. My parents always told me, don't go to that other side. Always stay close. At max, at times they would let me only go out for like maybe an hour, maybe 30 minutes, bro, which sucked. But as I got older, eventually they started letting me, go out earlier and just enjoy my time outside. But I didn't realize I lived in the hood. I would always, what I observed from my part of my neighborhood, right, was, at one point there were shoes hanged up on the power line. That is a sign of, I believe, someone, dying, I believe. And so maybe the relatives could have put that up there. I'm not sure. But a big sign for me, realizing that I grew up in the hood, was there was a trap house that got raided by the police. I witnessed it too. I saw the whole thing. The police just pulled up to the neighborhood because, it was my neighborhood, right? Then there's the street that leads you out of the parking lot. And then there's like a house. And I never really thought of anything of that house, right? Because the house it was like broken down. It wasn't really broken down, but it was just like a garage full of cars, a shitty garage. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I thought it was a junkyard, low key. But then there was this house. It looked like it was old. It wasn't renovated. But I always saw, during the summer, right? I would always see these nice cars pull up to this garage, this shitty garage. I would always see these nice motorcycles pull up to this shitty garage. I would always see these, parties, these people would have parties in their garage and stuff like that. I never I never realized that it was a trap house. Because one day, randomly, the police just showed up to the neighborhood. They raided the fuck out of that house, man, and people got arrested, bro. That was crazy. I never even realized that. I was staring out my window and, like, I never realized that, bro. My neighborhood that I lived in, let me get this straight also. Not all hoods, right? Not all hoods, not all of them, have constant gang violence and shootings, right? People don't always die in hoods. You know what I mean, guys? People don't always die. But, just with, like, the atmosphere and the kids, the criminal there was criminal activity, I believe. There's, the police at the time growing up, bro. There was police. There was a lot of times where the police was called to the neighborhood, and, like, the the police patrolling, around the neighborhood. Like, bro, if the police does not constantly, they were consistent with their patrols. Like maybe it was at night, who knows? Maybe it was during the day. I'm not sure when they exactly came. But I personally saw the police come to my neighborhood once a week patrolling the neighborhood. Once. They could have came to the neighborhood more. They could have. Maybe because maybe I was asleep at night, you know. My parents also didn't let me stay out too late at night in that neighborhood. You know, I would always be inside by like, I don't know, like by 8:30ish. They'd always tell me I needed to be inside. I was always inside by then. Sometimes I did break their rules of coming home a little bit late, but the latest would probably be like 9:15, you know. I remember the days that they would be so mad at me for coming late, bro. But now that I think about it, I never realized that I did live in a bad neighborhood where, you know, the kids were like, the kids that they didn't want me to surround myself around, you know, were bad, you know. And like, it's just, you know, growing up, I low key, I can't lie, I changed, but I can't lie, like, I was low key a bad kid, bro. Like, at first, I was a good kid. Then I transitioned into being a bad kid, you know, because I was hanging around the kids who, you know, did bad stuff, you know. I wasn't always doing the bad stuff. I was like there, you know. I was there. Like, I was a useless body just there, just watching what they were doing. But sometimes I did do the hood rat stuff that they did. Like, you know, like ding dong ditch, you know, throwing, what was it? He was either throwing apples. It had to be apples. I don't think we threw rocks at people running, but like there was this like running, like there was this cove, this really big ocean, right? And there was like a circle around it where people were able to, you know, walk around. I can't, you know, I gotta keep it real, man. You know, I threw, me and some people would throw like apples at people and stuff like that. Like it was messed up, man. I'm telling you, I was a bad kid growing up, low key. Like at first I was good, then I was bad, and then I switched back to, you know, being a good kid, man. But you know, it was just, you know, there's just not always, you know, not all hoods are constant gang violence, you know, not constant shootings. There's not all hoods are like that, bro. I lived in one of, there was three other hoods that were more, there's two actually other hoods, you know, growing up that were more dangerous than my hood that I grew up in. But over time, these hoods became more soft, you know. They're not as dangerous as they were a couple like years ago. But when I was growing up, like around like 2000, like let's just say 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15, maybe even 16 a little bit, between there, that is when, you know, those hoods were kind of a little dangerous. But before that, like between the 2000 and like maybe 10 or 9 era, and then 2014, you know, that is when those hoods were dangerous. I would consider dangerous. But you know, it's just, I I never really accepted it. I don't know why, that I grew up in the hood. I never really accepted the fact that I did grow up in the hood. But you know, um just, it was, there was actually, here's, how about this, there was times where, you know, I would, you know, come home from school and I'd be running, like when I came home from school off the bus, bro. I'd be running to my doorstep because that's how scared I was, kind of, at the time. And I think this was maybe until my freshman year of high school too, maybe or maybe up until my sophomore year. But when it was dark, you know how daylight savings, and it would get dark, it gets dark early around 4 p.m. where I live in the winter, right? So I would start running, bro. I would start running all the way from the bus stop to my front doorstep because that's how kind of scared I was, bro. So, you know, it's, you know, over time it did get soft, but you know, I did grow up in the hood. I may not sound or talk like I did, bro, but I did, you know. And like, I kind of realize now that I actually did live in the hood, bro. Cause you know, there's some people who I used to like talk to or hang out with, and you know, I would, you know, I told them the neighborhood that I lived in, and they were like, "You lived in the hood?" They would say like that, and I was like, I don't think I lived in the hood. I was delusional, but now that I think about it, I did. But not all. I'm trying to make a point here. Not all hoods are, what is it called? They're not all violent, constant shootings, killings. The hood that I lived in, it was full of, you know, delinquent kids, I guess. But there was a trap house, of course, and like the police did patrol often. They did patrol the neighborhood, but you know, other than that, it was just bad kids, bro. Bad kids. Some bad people, but it wasn't constant killing and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But I did grow up in the hood, though.